Hello, my name is Jesus Sanchez. This is my final PowerPoint presentation for Cat's Cradle by Kurt Vonnegut. Kurt Vonnegut was born November 11th, 1922 in Indianapolis, Indiana. Sadly, he passed away on April 11th, 2007. He was a writer who was known for satirical novels and frequently used postmodern techniques as well as elements of science fiction to highlight different horrors and ironies of the 20th century and in a lot of ways bring awareness to some of these issues. Um, as far as the audience reception to the book's publishing, I wasn't able to find too much, but what I was able to find was that college students at the time were, big fans of the book. And that unfortunately though the book didn't sell very well. I'm not sure if that was due to the finances of these college students or what have you. Um, but yeah, it didn't sell very well. As far as the controversies surrounding the book, um, the ones that really come to be are what you normally see in science fiction. Depending on what's portrayed in this particular one, it in this particular book, it talks about like the end of the world, and I'll describe that in further detail um, a bit later. But the one that's was recurring controversy was the satirical take on religion that Cat's Cradle has. Um, it has a religion called Bacanism, which essentially accepts its own falseness. Bacanism doesn't seek to be truthful or try and get followers to believe certain things. Instead, it accepts that it can that most of it's false. I believe it's the first page it prefaces by saying nothing in this book is true. And Balkanism seeks to just within these white lies or lines of the book, just to try and be helpful and useful. As far as the plot of Cat's Cradle, it was one of the more difficult plots to kind of get through, I'd say. But essentially, it talks about the life of the narrator John as he discovers and interacts with his cuirasses or with his cuirass. This is Vonnegut's term for a group of people who impact or guide one's life. The main, I guess, I don't know, one of the main components or science fiction components of Cat's Cradle is ice nine. Ice nine is an alternative structure of water that is solid at room temperature and acts as a crystal upon contact with ordinary liquid water, and it causes that liquid water to instantly freeze and transform into more ice nine. So eventually, within the book, ice nine does make contact with the Earth's ocean, which leads to a frozen world. And then it goes into a little bit further detail regarding that. So as far as three components or three connections that I would make between Cat's Cradle and the current world is one being just kind of the willingness of people to follow, or I guess maybe not necessarily the willingness to follow, but more so the ignorance that a lot of people have regarding different things that are a threat to their lives. You know, they don't really understand like the dangers and the actual like fears of one of the things that within the book in the PowerPoint, the slides is just we talk about Hiroshima that actually happened, and these different like nuclear powers that we're seeing that one of the some of the greatest advancements in modern history, right? They've helped us to be able to live much more, I don't want to say fulfilled lives, but have made our lives easier. But within these same advancements, there are a lot of things that people don't really understand about, which leads me to my next point, being that because of these advancements, there's a lot of corporations and people that don't really understand the power that they have within their hands. I mean, Ice Nine within the book was invented by an apathetic scientist, who really just kind of treats these discoveries and these scientific advancements as almost childish. It's something fun for them. And then obviously later in the book, through an accident, the entire world gets in, or the world's ocean gets in contact with Ice Nine, which freezes the world over. And I would say the last connection I'd make is religion. right? I think we have placed such a huge premium on religion nowadays, um, that it's, I mean, it's baffling to me personally, right? As someone who believes in higher powers, I don't necessarily believe in God as, we've seen it, I guess, put to the face of like Western culture, but Balkanism, they make fun of it's almost it's a satirical take on religion where it's accepting its own potential falseness. But we see people nowadays, I mean, they're just driven by the religion, and they can't prove this right or wrong, but they view it as true, not just right, but they view it as true, and then that leads to all these, for lack of a better word, stupid decisions or stupid kind of behaviorisms. And I think that's another thing too, within another theme within the kind of this dystopia that Cat's Cradle eventually presents, is just, I mean, again, for lack of a better word, the stupidity of man and the unwillingness to become more aware for a lot of people. And really, one of the quotes that really resonated with me was the following that's being presented right now: Tiger got to hunt, bird got to fly, man got to sit and wonder why. Tiger got to sleep, bird got to land, man got to tell himself he understand. So the way I would kind of talk about this is animals are really just, okay with going about their instinctive business, while humans tend to want a deeper explanation for things. Um, and it's almost, maybe that's our primitive drive, that we must now tell ourselves that there's a greater meaning in things, and sometimes there's just not, right? And I think that's, luckily I was kind of able to grasp that, but I can see why this would be a very tough read. Um, but yeah, I think that also is just kind of the angle that I this is my first Kurt Vonnegut book really that I've read, but maybe that's the angle he takes, and I'm looking forward to reading other ones because it's really a way to, I mean, to think that this guy was ahead of his time. I feel like most sci-fi writers are, but you think about the way they bring attention to these kind of questions about, instincts and humanity and just nature itself, not even making it a direct or central theme of a book, is just rather interesting. So that's going to conclude my presentation for Cat's Cradle. Thank you for listening.